Welcome back to the Beats with Kelly Kennedy of the True Wellness Center. And I am super, super grateful today to be able to introduce you to a new friend of mine, Catharine Arnston from ENERGYbits. And we're going to talk about nutrition and ENERGYbits. And you all know me. We're going to talk about Chlorella, one of my favorite things. And I was just introduced to her company. They sent me some samples. And as you know, I do a lot of live blood, and I will only talk about things I've tested. And I have tested this product, and it definitely is an active product, and it felt really good in my body as well. And I was super happy to have it last week when I was at Joe Dispenza's week-long retreat. I don't know when this is going to air, but last week I was at Joe Dispenza's retreat, and there's something called the Dispenza influenza. When you're detoxing, you shake all your cells, and your cells detox, and it goes into the lymphatic system, of course. And then you need a binder to go and grab that. So I was super, super happy that I had my ENERGYbits in my bag so I could gobble up some and swallow some little bits. So welcome, Catharine. Let's dive into Chlorella. Welcome to the Beats.
Yes, well, you got it. Well, Chlorella and Spirulina, because there's two algae and they do completely different things, but they're equally valuable, and everybody in the world should be taking them. And if I do my job right when I finally leave this planet, maybe everybody will be.
Thank you for bringing up Spirulina, because I did take that as well, and I don't give it as much reverence as I probably should. And I'm sure I'm going to learn all about that today.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit, Catharine. You've run ENERGYbits for 12 years, and tell me how you got started in this. Because I know you have some energy backgrounds as well. ENERGYbits, therefore.
Yes, energy healing. Yes. So I live in Boston, and I've been here almost 33 years, but I am actually Canadian. And I studied business, nothing to do with nutrition, or certainly not algae. And I was pursuing a corporate career in international business. And then 13 years ago, my younger sister in Canada, who I'm very close to, developed breast cancer. Now, first of all, I want everyone to know she's fine. We celebrate her being cancer-free every year, she and my other sister. But when she was preparing for her chemo 13 years ago, her oncologist recommended she change her diet to what she called an alkaline diet. Now, they didn't tell her what an alkaline diet was or why it was good for her. So the first call she made was to me, her big sister, who loves her. And here I'm a business person, and I knew nothing about nutrition. I said, I don't know what it is either, but I will find out for you, and we will conquer this together. So to the internet I went, and anybody can Google alkaline diet. And it was basically a plant-based diet because of the chlorophyll and the phytonutrients and many other attributes in plants that have been proven to heal your immune system and support it. So I gave her lots of tips. She changed her diet. She eliminated foods that were very acidic. She did go through chemo, and then she did completely heal. And that was 13 years ago. Now, in the process of helping my sister, I ended up reading about 10 books on plant-based nutrition. I must have read 100, maybe 200 papers, scientific papers in the National Institute of Health about plant-based nutrition. I thought, wow, this stuff is really powerful. Why isn't anybody talking about it? Because this was 13 years ago, and it was not mainstream. It wasn't even on anybody's radar 13 years ago. And I'm just a very passionate person. I thought, well, I feel an obligation now that I know about this stuff to share it. So I gave up my corporate career, went back to school. I went to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition in New York when they still had live classes. And it's just a one-year nutrition coaching certificate, but it gave me some credentials and some kind of background so I could at least talk about something. And then I put my own curriculum together teaching plant-based nutrition. And I gave these classes at corporations and hospitals, basically for free. And it was in the process of giving these workshops that I had my epiphany that led me to algae. And my epiphany was this: when I was telling people about the importance of eating more vegetables, they said, look, you're not telling us anything our mothers haven't been teaching us since we were kids. The problem is, it's just too much work. They're heavy to carry home from the grocery store. They take a long time to clean. They take a long time to cook. They take a long time to eat. There's endless arguments at the dinner table. Eat your vegetables, right? Eat your salad. Kids, guys. So I thought, okay, if everybody knows that they need more greens or vegetables, but it's too much work, I need to find something that's easy, nutrient dense like vegetables, but is effortless. So back to the drawing board I went again. I had no idea what I was going to find. And I looked at everything I discovered for my sister, but I just went a little deeper. Nothing was working. And then I got to algae. And that's when the miracle happened, because first of all, algae is the most alkaline food in the world. And that's what got me started on this. And we'll talk about, hopefully we can talk about the importance of alkaline, what an alkaline, what the alkalinity of your cells is, why that's important to your health. So first of all, algae, most alkaline. Turns out algae is also the most nutrient dense food in the world. And that's not my opinion. We have a quote from NASA that says, 1 gram of algae has the same nutrition as 1,000 grams of fruits or vegetables.
Wow.
1 to 1,000. 1 to 1,000. Yes. And we're going to talk about this in a minute, because these micro algae that we're going to talk about are so tiny that you can get about 1 million of them on the head of a pin. So when you consolidate all of these cells and all of the nutrition that's in them, you start to understand why it is so concentrated. So that was also pretty exciting. Then I found out algae has the most protein in the world. It has 3 times the amount of protein as steak, which is why in 1974, so almost 50 years ago, the United Nations had a global conference on spirulina algae and declared it in 1974 the answer to world hunger, because there is nothing in the world with more protein than algae, and it's a sustainable crop. And they've been using it ever since, but it's never really taken off like we hope it needs to be to, really make a difference in the world. On top of all that, algae is the most sustainable, most studied food in the world. Number one, it's a food. It is not a supplement. And I'm going to show you pictures of an algae farm to prove that algae is not a supplement. You can't show me a supplement farm, but I can show you an algae farm. And we'll talk about that in a minute too. It's grown in fresh water. It's not from the ocean. Yes, there is algae in the ocean, but the algae we sell in Spirulina and Chlorella are harvested as vegetable crops. So not a supplement, but more importantly, it's the most studied food in the world. There are 60,000 studies on spirulina, about 40,000 on Chlorella. When pharmaceutical companies do studies, if they do 5 or 10 or 20, like they're just, honking their horn and it's a big deal. Well, 40 or 50 or 60,000 and 100 collectively, that's a big number. So what I'm going to be telling you today about the benefits of algae is proof contradicts another one. So it's in solid scientific foundation. On top of that, as if that wasn't enough, algae has been used every day in Japan for 75 years. In Asia, everybody in Asia uses this stuff. It is a multi-billion, that's with a B, multi-billion-dollar agricultural crop. It's almost as big as the beef industry. That's big. So you say to yourself, that's crazy. Something that's so scientifically proven, so used in Asia, endorsed by international agencies like the United Nations and NASA. Like, what's the deal here? Well, the deal is it's all grown in Asia. So none of us grew up with algae. We grew up seeing trucks of, wheat going by, or logs, or processed foods, but we didn't see any trucks with algae driving by. So it's just not part of our vernacular. And the Asians, they don't do anything to make it easier for you to understand what it is. And the quality was really poor. Most of it came from China. So when I saw the science, I saw how safe it was. I saw how easy it was, because we sell them in tiny little tablets. We're going to talk about that in a minute. They're about the size of a baby aspirin. Each one of these tablets has the same nutrition as an entire plate of vegetables. That, drum roll, you didn't have to carry home from the grocery store, clean, cook, or eat. If you have 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 of these a day, you will never have to eat another vegetable again in your life if you don't want to, because it's got 500 times more chlorophyll than arugula. It has 40 vitamins and minerals. It has 60 to 64% protein. It's unbelievable. And it goes down in seconds. You swallow 2 or 3, 5 or 10 of these in the morning, you've got all the nutrition that you need for the day in seconds. No work at all.
And it won't break a fast, considering I'm in a fast right now, correct?
It will not break a fast because it's 0 carbs. It's ketogenic. It's vegan. It's kosher. Well, ours are kosher. It's low fiber. It's low carb. There's 1 calorie per tablet, 1 ingredient. I mean, algae is like the perfect food. And it was the first life on Earth almost 4 billion years ago. We're not just talking the first food. We're talking about the first life. There's something very spiritual about being the first life on Earth. These are single cell organisms. I don't know what caused spirulina to grow, but before spirulina, Earth was just gas and water. Nothing lived. And then I don't know what caused it, but started growing. And algae, by the way, is responsible for 80% of the oxygen on Earth, even now. And back then, after 1 billion years of it growing, it released enough oxygen that other life forms could grow. And then Chlorella started growing, and then other life forms. And then 3 billion years later, we showed up. So we have algae to thank for life, period.
That was like a huge download of information and really amazing. And I knew I liked Chlorella. I've read a lot about Chlorella. I've obviously not read 60,000 papers and had no idea the extent of it. But I just want to sum that up because that was, I think you actually talk faster than I do, Catherine, and that really says a lot. But I just want to like, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, well, and there's, and people might need to listen to this a couple times, and we'll go back and we'll unpack some of the things that I talked about so that you can understand some of the science about some particular matters that, I addressed very quickly. But I mean, I could talk about algae for 48 hours and not run out of things to say because it's crazy.
It sounds like it, but let's sum up a couple of things. So 1 gram of algae is equivalent to 1,000 grams of vegetables in regard to its density of nutrition.
Nutrition, correct. It's not, obviously you're not going to get the fiber, but you're going to get, and so I made this little teaching image. So 1 tablet has sort of the
if you're not on a video right now, go to the video. This is a hysterical picture.
So you can't have that, or your kids won't eat it, or your parents, or you're just traveling and you can't carry broccoli, although I've been known to do that in the past. It's just so hard to get good nutrition. And here's the other problem. The vegetables, even if you are eating them, they aren't the same as 50 years ago. Our soils are so overcropped. There's nothing left in the soil for the plants to pull up. And the ozone layer is so damaged, they're finding that plants have more sugar in them now than they do nutrition. So even if you are eating vegetables and salads every day, you are still nutritionally deprived. Like I stopped buying arugula because after day 3, it was going yellow. That's because there's virtually no chlorophyll in the arugula anymore to start off with. But Chlorella has 500 times the chlorophyll as arugula. Right? That's why it's called Chlorella, because of the chlorophyll. And we'll talk about the importance of chlorophyll in a minute.
And I know a lot of people like green juices, and often when I travel, I used to do green juices, although that's exactly why I brought my ENERGYbits with me instead of my green juices, because I was on this ketogenic thing and I couldn't have any carbs. So I was like, I'll eat a few ENERGYbits a day and then I'm covered. And if people juice, I just want you to understand there's a lot of carbs and essentially sugars in juicing your vegetables. And, I'm not a fan of it long-term. Short-term, anything's great. Anything can stimulate you. But long-term, Chlorella can provide that dense nutrient as well as be easier to travel with, as well as dense protein.
Yeah.
I really want to get to this, feeding the hungry thing, because that's amazing. Yeah. But I also didn't know that that spirulina was the first single-celled organism on the planet. Didn't know that.
Yeah, well, there's so much so here's the problem, because I actually I was asked to speak at a algae scientific conference a few years ago. And I went once and I said, I'm not coming back, because they weren't open to how you have to explain algae to consumers, because no one's ever explained it. So all this science has existed for decades. But scientists like to talk to other scientists. They like to talk in jargon. And at first I sort of fought my selection. Algae selected me, by the way, to do this. I didn't select algae. All I just wanted to do was help my sister be healthy. And then I fell down the rabbit hole and discovered algae. And I kept telling the universe, go pick somebody else. I don't have any science background. Why me? Find somebody who understands this, because I had to teach myself biochemistry and nutrition to understand why algae works so well. But ultimately, I am the perfect person because I know what it feels like not to know any science terms. And so I have a scientific mind, fortunately. So I enjoy going into these complex scientific papers and calling out one or two nuggets of information that I can communicate to the rest of the world in a way that's not condescending or challenging, that really helps them understand why this stuff works. And there's nobody else doing that.
So let's go back to like just 101. What's algae? Catherine, what is
Great
algae?
question. Okay. So algae is its own food category. It's not a fruit, and it's technically not a plant either because it started in the ocean. So it is its own food group. Now, within algae, there's two main subcategories. One is called macroalgae, and the other one is microalgae. And we're going to mostly talk about microalgae, but let me tell you what macroalgae is first. It's basically seaweed. It's that big stringy stuff that washes up on shore, also known as dulse or kelp. It's very important because it has lots of fiber and has iodine because it comes from the ocean, but it's virtually zero nutrition. You can buy a big bag of kelp noodles instead of having pasta, and you'll chuckle because there's like 5 calories in that huge bag because there's virtually no nutrition. But anyways, macroalgae is only in the sea. That's why it's called seaweed. Microalgae is different. It's called micro because it's microscopic in size. And I mentioned at the very beginning, something like 1 million of these cells could fit on the pin. That's how tiny the head of a pin. That's how tiny they are. They're microscopic. And unlike seaweed, which is only in the sea, microalgae is everywhere. It's in the sea. So it's in all the oceans, but it's also in the lakes, the rivers, the soil. It's in your swimming pool, it's in your aquarium, it's everywhere, and it feeds everything. So we have microalgae to thank for life on Earth. So that's number 2. So within microalgae, there's all kinds of strains. There's blue-green, there's green, there's red. But, and I mention this because the two we're going to talk about, Spirulina, which is one strain of blue-green algae, and Chlorella, which is one strain of green algae. These are the two that are harvested in fresh water as agricultural crops. However, there are tens of other thousands of strains of blue-green algae or green algae. And that's why I want to point this out, because you may go to the internet after this and you might find an article about toxic blue-green algae closing the beach on in Florida or whatever. Well, it's not spirulina. It's just a strain of algae that is a blue-green strain, but it's not spirulina. It's a strain that is grown in the ocean. And I'd also like to point out, poor algae gets a bum rap because algae shows up only after there's bacteria that needs to be cleaned up, because algae kills bacteria. I'm going to say that again. Algae kills bacteria. So it's the cleanup crew. It only shows up there because maybe people have been peeing in the water too much, or maybe there's too much agricultural toxic runoff. But whatever happened, it caused bacteria to be in the water, and algae came to clean it up. And actually, algae is used in virtually every single water treatment plant in North America for that very reason. All the water gets processed through algae because it kills bacteria, and it oxygenates it, by the way. So here we have two strains, blue-green and green, and they do completely different things in your body. We recommend that you take them at different times of day. And I can go through the different profiles of the two algae now, if you'd like, and what they do differently in your body. But unless you have some other.
Yeah, no, I do. I have like 1,001 questions right now, but yes, let's go through the difference. And I'm curious. So the blue-green strand, just to reiterate, there's lots of strands of blue-green algae, and spirulina is one of them.
Yes.
And you're going to explain why we found so many health benefits for that, I'm sure. And then same with green algae, there are a lot of strains. Chlorella is one of the strains.
Yes.
And it is found in freshwater, in rivers and lakes, not just in the sea. Is it found in the sea at all?
Yes. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Found in
Yeah.
the sea
Yeah.
as well
Well,
as
not Chlorella. Only the algae's. The two strains that are harvested for food are the two we're talking about. They're to my knowledge, they're not in the ocean. These two are grown in fresh water for food consumption. Now I'm holding up two little tins. The spirulina is a blue-green algae, and it's called a blue-green algae because it has two pigments in it. It has a blue one called phycocyanin and the green one, which is chlorophyll. And Chlorella just has the green one, which is chlorophyll. And
essentially what they do is capture light, and we know that our cells communicate through light through both biophotons, and we'll get there. But
yeah, definitely dig into that.
I really want to talk about the ocean, or the rivers and the streams and the soils, because I instantly went to glyphosate. And is it getting in there, or does it get rid of glyphosate?
Well, when you consume algae that's harvested, which is and harvested safely, we're the only algae company that's sold through doctors, functional medicine, chiropractors, because ours is the safest and purest. And we do third-party lab tests here in the United States to prove that, because the doctors are literally prescribing our algae. So they are very clean, toxin free. Now, I can't speak for other vendors because I'm not aware of anybody else who does third-party lab tests. And I can't say whether, we grow ours in triple filtered Spring Mountain water. So I can't vouch for anybody else's quality or purity, only ours. And when you talked about glyphosate, Chlorella, one of the benefits we're going to talk about is that it's a detoxing algae. It will pull out toxins of any kind, lead, mercury, radiation, and including glyphosate. So, and we're all exposed to that. So, and we're going to, again, I'll get into it in a bigger detail, but there's so many toxins in our world. And as if that wasn't bad enough, you think about it, your body is constantly regenerating. Your skin, your stomach lining regenerates every 4 days, your skin every 25, your organs every 7 or 8 years. So it's constantly remodeling. But think about it. Where does the old stuff go? Well, every day, 30 trillion cells in your body die. 30 trillion, that's a lot, right? And if you don't clear out those dead cells, they become toxic too. And they lodge in your mitochondria, they lodge in your lymphatic nodes and attract bacteria, which cause it to be more acidic, which causes less oxygen, which causes more damage. So it's bad enough that you've got toxins on the outside, but the problem is, even if you lived in a bubble, you would still need something like Chlorella to clear out the old garbage. Literally, that's what they are. These dead cells are garbage. And if you don't take out your garbage at home, you know how smelly things get, right? So I tell people, look, taking Chlorella every day is like taking Chlorella every day is like having a shower on the inside. We all take a shower on the outside, but Chlorella pulls out, whether it's fumes from the air that you were breathing, or alcohol, or lactic acid, or mercury, lead, radiation, aluminum. You need that stuff pulled out every day, because otherwise it just causes damage. So Chlorella does that. So spirulina is the blue-green algae. It's been known and used for years as a nourishing algae and an energizing algae. And the reason why it's nourishing, as I mentioned earlier, it has the highest concentration of protein in the world, and that's all the, not only is it rich in protein, the protein's already in amino acid form, so it's easy for your body to absorb instantly. It has 18 of the 20 aminos, and it has all 9 aminos that your body can't make. So it's what's called a complete protein. And this is all very important, because if you don't have a complete protein, your body's not getting all the individual aminos that it needs to function properly and build muscle. So spirulina, because it has all that protein, and because it has a high concentration of B vitamins, which convert the aminos into energy, that's why spirulina algae has been known as an energizing algae. So not just nourishing, but very energizing. So,
and just so everybody knows, because not everybody's a practitioner or anything listening to this. So protein is the most prevalent thing in your body. Your body's made up of proteins, which is a combination of amino acids.
yes.
We have to get 9 amino acids from our nutrition in order for our body to make all the complete proteins it needs. And spirulina has 18 of the 20 amino acids, 9 of which are the essential amino acids that we
Correct.
must get from food.
Correct.
And the B vitamins to help all of it be utilized throughout the body and help detoxification pathways and so forth. Okay, right. Thank you. Go back.
Okay. And just to help people understand, when you eat animal protein, like you eat a fist size of chicken, for example, that averages about 50 grams of protein. Now, when 30 of our little tablets has 5 grams, and you think, well, that's not very much. But the thing is, your body can't absorb that chicken as it is. It has to break it down into these amino acids. And sometimes that can take 2 or 3 days. And in most cases, people don't have all the what's called factors and cofactors to facilitate that breakdown and absorption. So you end up on average absorbing maybe 10% of that 50 grams. And what's 10% of 50 grams? 5. So spirulina, it doesn't take any work for your body to break down the protein into amino acids because it's already in amino acids. And 2, spirulina is technically a bacteria. It is called a cyanobacteria. And the reason why this is important is because there is no cellulose wall for your body to have to break down to get access to those aminos. So not only do you have all these rich aminos, and not only does the B vitamins convert them into energy, they get absorbed like whoosh, almost instantly into your bloodstream. This is why when we first started, we actually were discovered by runners, and then marathon runners, and then triathletes, and then Olympic athletes. For a while, we were actually known as a sports nutrition company because the runners and the athletes needed something that gave them energy on their 30-mile or 20-mile, or even we worked with endurance athletes who were running 100 miles that didn't upset their stomach, because carbs and sugar will upset your stomach. They upset my stomach all the time. But when you're an athlete and you're out there, you get gas and diarrhea, and it's just not pretty. But the spirulina did not do any of that. First of all, it has no carbs, sugar, or caffeine, but it gets absorbed so quickly that there's virtually no digestion. It just gets absorbed into your bloodstream.
And that's because the cellulose wall, which is the thick wall, like if you can think about, I don't know what's a good analogy for cellulose?
Well, broccoli, celery. Think of celery, how stringy it is, right? That's a cellulose wall. So there is none of that on spirulina. It has no fiber. This is one of the reasons why it's so great for any age group, whether it's newborns, teenagers, grandparents. Older people have a hard time digesting things, and so do babies. Well, spirulina is a godsend because there's no fiber. It never upsets your stomach. Ours is the safest, purest, easiest thing to digest because it gets into your bloodstream so quickly. That's when we talk about chlorella, it's the complete opposite. It has the hardest cellulose wall in the plant kingdom, but spirulina has none. So all that spirulina that gets all the aminos that get converted to Bs and get absorbed quickly because there's no cellulose wall. And then also spirulina has a very high amount of iron, which carries oxygen in your blood, and that's very energizing. It's also loaded with essential fatty acids, including omega-3, which help reduce inflammation and help with brain thought. It has boron, which helps with synapses and coordination. And it's also what's called a vasodilator. It releases nitric oxide. And what that does, nitric oxide, vasodilator, it means it relaxes smooth muscles. And your bloodstream, your blood vessels are smooth muscles. So when they're relaxed, they're effectively more open. So you get more blood, you get more oxygen, you get more nutrients flowing to your brain and to your body. So that's why, again, spirulina is known as an energizing algae. So we thought to make it easy for people, we would call our spirulina ENERGYbits because it just helps people understand what it does. Now, I just want to put in context, the energy you get from it is not like lightning bolts, that you won't feel like you're going to jump off a tall building in a single bound. You might not even notice it at first because there is no caffeine or chemicals or carbs. It's a very slow, steady energy. It satisfies your hunger almost in minutes, but you'll just notice that you feel fresh. That's the best way we describe how you feel when you take spirulina. You feel fresh and alert, and like you just had a good night's sleep or a walk in the fresh water. And if you are working out, you'll end up running further or faster or lifting more, and you won't even have noticed it. It's that kind of effortless energy. So
I noticed it was very, like the first week of my fast, I was at a hotel doing week-long meditation retreat. And I noticed I was because we were getting up at 4 a.m. I wasn't eating until 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And I found it, like, the best way I can say it, satisfied.
Yeah.
Like I didn't need anything. I didn't struggle to need anything. I was just, and by the way, I'm out of bits rather. So I'm like, ready
we'll
to
get you some more. Yeah, we'll ship you some more.
Because I ran out like 2 days ago. But I think that it's important for people to understand, like you said, the distinction of energy, because remember, minerals are what run our body. And when you are lit up like a light bulb, everybody wants my energy level. Well, then take your minerals. And this is a great way to get your minerals.
Yeah. So it has all the electrolytes, potassium, magnesium. And it, so there's 40, when I say 40 vitamins, minerals, it includes all the electrolytes. That's a really good point. Magnesium alone, I think, is responsible for 600 metabolic processes in your body. So,
and so many people are magnesium deficient, as we heard from Dr. John Lorenz that I had on, is for magnesium. Oh no, that was Barton Scott. I take that back. That was the Barton Scott. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, magnesium's great, and we can talk more about the minerals. But anyway, so that's spirulina. Nourishing, by the way, it's so nourishing and has so much protein and so many vitamins and minerals in it. It can replace your multivitamin, your fish oil. By the way, most fish oil goes rancid. It's probably rancid by the time you buy it. And so you're buying it to reduce inflammation, but because it's rancid, it does the opposite. And people, there's so much overfishing for all this fish oil. And I remind people, well, where do you think the fish get their omega-3 from? They get it from algae. And algae never goes bad. It's the bottom of the food chain. And you'll save the oceans by getting your omega-3 from algae too. And it's also vegan, by the way. So if you're vegan, you're out of luck. You can't take fish oil. And fish oil, I can't take fish oil. I tried so many years. I would burp it up all the time. It turns out everybody else has the same, feeling. Algae never has a repeat. Once it's down, it stays down. So, and one other little thing I'll mention about spirulina is, it's the only thing that keeps babies alive in Japan if they cannot digest mother's breast milk. And I used to be curious about this. And one day I saw a science book from the 40s, and it had the nutritional profile of mother's breast milk, especially the amino profile. And I thought, gosh, that looks awfully familiar. Sure enough, it's virtually identical to spirulina, the same aminos in the same proportions. And the other very important nutrient in spirulina is an essential fatty acid called GLA, which stands for gamma-linolenic acid. Now, GLA is technically an omega-6, and we know omega-6s are bad for us, but it's if they're in a processed food, because heat is what causes omega-6 to become poisonous and toxic. But GLA in our algae, because we don't use high heat to dry our algae, is still healthy. And so it behaves like an omega-3 to reduce inflammation. And if you ever doubt that GLA is important for you, consider this. The only place that has more GLA in it than spirulina is mother's breast milk. And the reason why it's in mother's breast milk is because it's so important for the baby's brain development, because the baby's brain doubles or triples in size in the first couple of years. So I like to think that spirulina, since it was the first life on Earth and was a gift to us from Mother Nature, and it's the same nutrient profile as mother's breast milk, is the equivalent of Gaia's breast milk.
Wow.
Just think about that for a while, right? It's the first life on Earth, and it's from Mother Nature.
That's amazingly incredible, because and I can already hear the emails I'm going to get, particularly from my one good friend who's all into the carnivore diet. I hear you out there. I know what you're going to say to me.
Hey, carnivores can take this too. There's no carbs.
There. And there was something else you said about, it just made me think about, a lot of people are dealing or diagnosed with Epstein-Barr virus. And I know this is
Yeah.
not medical advice or treatment, go see your practitioner, all that good stuff. But I have used Spirulina, I take it back, for years to help people with Epstein-Barr virus because it really reduces the inflammation, I believe, because of the B vitamins in it on the nerve cell for so many people that can't take B vitamins because they feel supercharged because their adrenals are so fatigued. And I would imagine you have found the same thing. And I would like at some point, we don't have to do it now because I want you to go into Chlorella a little bit, but just talk a little bit about like why yours is grown where it's grown and how there's maybe other companies that aren't growing it the same way, or, there's like that Hawaiian. And I'm just so curious about that component.
Yeah. So we grow ours in Taiwan. I researched the world and found out Taiwan is known for having the highest quality algae. It's also very strict regulation because it's such a big industry in Taiwan. Up until a few years ago, most algae was grown in China. Chlorella was predominantly grown in Japan, and everything else, both of them were grown in China. But Taiwan seemed to have the highest quality. So that's and when you get a certification from them, it's the real deal. And then of course we do extra tests here. But I chose Taiwan, and then within that, the company that grows it for us has been growing it for 50 years, and they use triple filtered spring mountain water. So which is important because whatever medium the algae is grown into, it will absorb. That's why you don't want algae from the ocean, because the ocean is toxic. So it's going to absorb whatever's in the ocean. So that's number one. Number two, so that separates us already, because most people are not as careful about their water source. Number two, as I mentioned, we air dry it. We don't use high heat. Most of the other algae companies are lower priced, which means they have to sell a lot to make money. So they have to get it to market quickly. So they use high heat to get it to market quickly, which kills the enzymes and changes and deteriorates some of the nutrition. So I'm just going to show you, this is a spirulina farm. Chlorella grows in round ponds. Spirulina grows in a spiral, starts at one end and grows in the other. So this is, and it's, shallow, but it's fresh water. And then we air dry it into a powder, and then it gets pressed into tablets that we call bits, because they're bits of nutrition. And we don't put any binders in the tablets to make them stick. They just get pressed into these tiny little tablets. And a lot of other companies either have them in capsules with gel caps, and they use other fillers, or they use binders. So these companies don't even have to tell you what's in them half the time. They just put certain nutrients on there. So and that's why we do the third-party lab test, because we sell through doctors. So they have to see that there's nothing else in our algae except algae. And the nutrition is exactly what we say it is. And we start with the highest strains, and then we import them in large quantities, and we have them packaged here in the United States at a FDA approved large facility. I design all the packaging. The bags are UV protected, 99% UV protected. And that's important because sunlight will pull out the chlorophyll. It won't ever, algae, we have to put an expiry date on all of our algae, and it's usually 2 or 3 years. But I'll tell you, algae, it never goes bad. I mean, you could have this in your cupboard for 5 or 10 years. It will never, may not taste as great, but it will never go bad. Think of that compared to your vegetables. Almost all your vegetables go bad after 2 or 3 days, and it's a huge amount of waste, right? So algae is very, not only efficient in terms of the nutrition in the tablet, but that you never throw any of it away. And just to give you another sort of side note of how crazy algae is, how crazy good it is. When the growing conditions for any other fruit or vegetable deteriorate, like the sun is gone or not enough rain, the plant just dies, right? Tomatoes, corn, doesn't matter what it is, they just die. Not algae. It will go dormant indefinitely until the growing conditions return, and then it'll just start growing again. And an example of that, I read about a National Geographic team that went up to the North Pole, and they were doing some carbon dating of the ice, and they got a chip of a piece of ice that was about 2 billion years old, and there was some algae attached to it. So they brought it back to the lab and threw it in a petri dish and added some water, and wouldn't you know, the algae started growing again 2.5 billion years later. So I tell you that because That's why you can keep the algae tablets, at least ours, because they're air dried, raw food, and it will last forever. And just think of what it does to your body too. I mean, it's just such pure, concentrated liveliness. I call it algae love.
And just to reiterate, both spirulina and chlorella make your body alkaline. And could you go through, before you go too deep into chlorella, can you go through what that really means for people?
Yeah. So all parts of your body have a different pH. It stands for potential of hydrogen. And there's an alkaline scale of 0 to 14. And the higher the number, the more alkaline that you are, or whatever it is that you're measuring. Now, just to start the discussion, there was a German scientist in 1941 who won a Nobel Prize. His name is Otto Warburg, Warburg, and you can Google him. He won a Nobel Prize for discovering that cancer can only exist in cells if they are acidic. In fact, since then, they've realized all disease can only exist in acidic environments. And the reason for that is because when your cells are alkaline, they are rich with oxygen, and the oxygen is what makes everything work. It keeps functioning. It supports the mitochondria health, which is the little organelles that are inside your cells. And when there's too much acidity, whether from acidic food, dairy, processed food, unfortunately meat is acidic.
Emotions.
Pardon me? Emotions are very acidic.
Emotions.
Emotions is very acidic. There's athletics, you throw off lactic acid. If you don't balance out that acidity, you can change the pH at the cellular level, so it becomes more acidic, which causes more free radicals to occur, more damage to the mitochondria, less oxygen, and provides an environment for diseases like cancer to take place.
To develop. Because it's a terrain, it changes the terrain, the milieu.
Yeah, and the cells generally are 7.1, which is just slightly alkaline. Your skin has a different alkalinity. Your stomach is very acidic. It needs to be acidic to digest food. But that's number one, is that at the cellular level, it's so important to maintain that slightly alkaline pH to preserve the cellular health and protect you against more invasive diseases from taking place, like cancer. And okay, so now let's switch over to the pH of your blood. Now, your blood is actually a little bit more alkaline than your cell. It tends to be 7.34. Now, here's the interesting thing about your blood pH. Everybody knows that to be healthy, your temperature should be 97.6 or something? But
it lowered. It used to be 98.6. Yeah.
Okay. So, but your pH of your blood also has to be absolutely consistent at 7.34, which is, again, slightly more alkaline. Because if it becomes too acidic, you would die. So your body's so intelligent that if you eat too much acidic food, or you're too emotional, you're too much athletic, and you've probably seen with live blood tests, there's not enough oxygen in there. And so it knows it needs to maintain that alkalinity to preserve the oxygen. So what does it do? When you are too acidic in your blood, it pulls minerals from your bones, from your other cells, from your organs, instantly into your blood to balance that out, because otherwise you would be dead. But the problem is, if that happens over and over and over again, you start pulling the important mineral reserves in your bones, and that leads to osteoporosis. And it's just very hard on your immune system to be redirecting minerals out of the cells where they should be doing metabolic processes and into your blood to balance out that acidity. That's why I think my sister's oncologist wanted her to have an alkaline diet, because if she's got the alkalinity already established, that never happens. And when you're getting chemo, you want the strongest immune system as you can possibly have, so you don't want anything to wear it down. So those are two examples of where alkalinity really is important for maintaining your health and your homeostasis at both the blood and the cellular level.
Whew, okay, so take a breath, everybody. I know it's a little bit longer, but obviously she's chocked full of information. I'm chocked full of questions. So, Catherine,
let's talk about chlorella.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Catherine, let's jump over to Chlorella.
Okay, all right. So Chlorella is spirulina's brother or sister, however you want to say it. Showed up about 1 billion years later, and it's a green algae. Again, spirulina is a blue-green algae. Chlorella is a green algae. Now, so Chlorella has the highest concentration of chlorophyll in the world. Remember, I said spirulina has the highest protein in the world. So you may say to yourself, well, what's so important about chlorophyll? Well, I could talk about all day about that, but let me just give you a couple of pointers. First of all, I'm showing you a chart that shows you the chemical composition of chlorophyll and the chemical composition of your blood, which is a great segue because we were just talking about your blood.
I mean, you guys, it looks
identical.
It's almost identical.
The only
There's a little bit of a different.
Yeah, in your blood, you have iron in the middle. And in chlorophyll, you have magnesium, and that iron atom in the middle of your hemoglobin is what carries oxygen. But other than that, they are identical. This is why one of the key reasons why chlorophyll is so important. It builds your blood. Chlorophyll's been used for centuries for helping people recover from illness. It was used for surgeries, even as recently as World War II, when they would run out of blood for transfusions, they would just give the patient liquid chlorophyll because they would heal just as fast as if they'd had a blood transfusion. And that explains why it's virtually identical to your blood. And because you can't get chlorophyll in large concentrations anymore from your vegetables because they just don't have it, Chlorella is your answer. It's the answer to building your blood, and your blood is your freeway of nutrients that feeds your entire body. It feeds your brain, your cells, your organs. And so if you don't have healthy blood, healthy oxygenated blood, you're going to have, it's just a slippery slope. You're going to suffer from fatigue, brain fog. It presents a landscape where disease can take place. It's unbelievable. Chlorophyll is a godsend, and it's so rare in our food supply. Even liquid chlorophyll, people are starting to take liquid chlorophyll, but I point out Chlorella even has 25 times more chlorophyll than liquid chlorophyll. There's nothing in the planet with more
Chlorella has 25 more times chlorophyll in it than liquid chlorophyll.
Correct, because liquid chlorophyll generally is made from alfalfa sprouts, and Chlorella, again, remember, it's a micro algae, so concentrated, like a million cells on the head of a pin, and you just multiply that times whatever. It's impossible to get more chlorophyll from anything. You could eat a room full of arugula and you wouldn't even come close to the amount of chlorophyll that's in 30 tablets of Chlorella algae. So that's number one. Chlorophyll builds your blood. Number two, we're talking about your health everything starts at the cellular level. So your good health and your bad health. And not only, so the key to maintaining your health and the mitochondria in the cell's health is your cell wall. And you need to keep your cell wall permeable so that nutrients can get in and toxins can get out. And traditionally, healthy fats like D3 and omega-3 have been used for that reason, because when the cell is permeable, then everything's flowing properly. But the problem is not many people are eating those, and there's still other issues that happen to make your cell wall damaged. So chlorophyll is a fat-based pigment, and I'm going to show you the proof of that. Here's a picture of some spirulina tablets I put in a plate with water, and you see how the beautiful blue pigment disperses evenly through the water. Well, down here is a picture of a couple of Chlorella tablets I put in water, and notice that it doesn't disperse like its brother over here, spirulina. I did this 25 times until I had my epiphany of what was going on. The blue pigment in spirulina is water-based. That's why it has healing properties for your plasma and for your blood, and we can talk about that later. And Chlorella, because it has chlorophyll, and because it's a fat-based pigment, it doesn't mix with water. And because you need fats for your cell wall, it heals your cell walls. And the best analogy I give people is, when you have dirty windows, you can't see out and sunlight can't get in. So think of chlorophyll and chlorella as window washers for your cell walls, keeps them working properly so everything can get in and go out. Lots of times when people are doing cleanses, maybe it's the chlorophyll from the cleanse that's, making that process happen. So it builds your blood.
Chlorella has a natural a molecule of fat in it, is what you're saying. It has a molecule of fat to allow it to cross the barrier of the cell wall.
Well, it's not just that, it is a fat.
It is a fat.
It is a fat.
Which is why when I was doing years ago Chlorella in powder, and I would try to stir it in water.
Probably didn't stir up very well.
It didn't. And I was drinking liquid chalk and gagging over the sink for 5 years, probably.
Yeah. That won't happen with spirulina because it's a water-based, the primary pigment is blue, the phycocyanin.
Well, what's interesting to me is toxins store in the fat. So I would imagine that Chlorella continues to help with the toxic load in the body.
Oh, Chlorella is, well, I'll get to that in a second. We're just talking about chlorophyll. And in fact, the Chlorella has the highest chlorophyll, but these are properties of chlorophyll, that it's a fat that heals the cell walls and builds your blood. And one more thing about chlorophyll, it's just very cleansing all the way down through your digestive tract. Only about 10% of it gets absorbed in your stomach, and the rest of it travels through your colon, which is very important because that's where all the garbage sits. And it also, it's very cleansing. So it's very, very important for your colon health and for your digestive health. So that's the chlorophyll aspect of chlorella. Chlorella is known as a healing algae. Remember I said spirulina is an energizing algae? Chlorella is a healing algae. It's a wellness algae. So we call ours ENERGYbits because it helps you recover your health, or recover from the day, or recover from sports, or recover from drinking even. And I'll tell you why. So it's not just the chlorophyll. Chlorella has the hardest cell wall in the plant kingdom. Remember I said spirulina has none and is actually technically a bacteria. Chlorella does belong to the plant kingdom, although it's still not technically a plant, and we can talk about that as well. But it does have this hard cell wall that has been used for decades for pulling out lead, mercury radiation, aluminum. As I mentioned, it pulls out alcohol. Athletes use it as a post-workout to pull out lactic acid. And it's irrefutable. I mean, the United Nations used it after Chernobyl to pull out radiation from the disaster area. The Fukushima disaster, when it happened 7 or 8 years ago, the global supply of chlorella was bought up within 24 hours by everybody in Asia because they know it's the only thing that does pull out radiation. We work with biological dentists who use chlorella to pull out mercury, because when you pull out the fillings, there's mercury in there, and they give it to their patients and they take it as well because of the fumes of the mercury. So it's unbelievable what it does. And it pulls out any kind of toxins, whether it's glyphosate, mold, mycotoxins, it doesn't matter what it is.
Can you repeat, because we've been in practice for 18 years at the True Wellness Center in Philadelphia area, and we didn't have a sign for 15 years, but Ayn and I always made a joke that we should have a sign outside that says Heavy Metal Detox Center, come on in. And when people ask me what we do, for years I said, I just send people to the biological dentist and clean them up before and after. That's pretty much all I do. And this is why chlorella has been a staple, as well as glutathione, which the body creates, but staple in our practice to help people detoxify from mercury, aluminum, lead, radiation, what else did you say? Lactic acid, mold. Please, can you speak to the volumes of scientific data that has proven that?
Well, I don't know. I don't know where to begin. There's just so much research. The little segue, I was on Shark Tank a number of years ago, and Mark Cuban said, well, give us some examples of the science that proves what you're saying is true. And I paused because I was thinking to myself, well, which of the 100,000 studies do I reference on television in the next 15 seconds? And he misinterpreted my pause that I didn't know anything. And it was like, what do I tell you? Like, there's so much, it's so almost incomprehensible. I think this is why no one has ever tackled algae, because it's almost too much to say about it. So there's studies showing, it's been given to elderly patients and it gives them more energy. It's given to animals and it pulls out toxins, and it helps animals, by the way, as much as it does humans. It's the chlorella, not just the chlorophyll. It's the chlorella, the combination of the chlorophyll, the hard cell wall. It has fiber, which heals the gut because it feeds the bacteria who can then release short chain fatty acids. It's other attributes of chlorella that contribute to all this. It's the highest RNA and DNA in the world, so it helps your RNA and DNA to replicate in a healthier fashion. It has the highest tryptophan in the world. Tryptophan is a precursor to melatonin and serotonin, which helps you sleep. It has a very high amount of K2, which removes excess calcium from soft tissue. So, one of the things I'd like to do as we get to be a bigger company is maybe have the budget to do very specific studies, so I can point to very exact examples. Have some people not taking chlorella who have been measured for certain mercury levels, and give them a placebo and give them the chlorella. But the studies that have been done in Asia, they've been done in Europe, America, but it's usually PhDs. Again, they pick such small, narrow areas to do the study, because that's what they do when they do these studies. Are very esoteric.
And why does the hard cell wall contribute to detoxifying?
Well, it's a chelator. So, and again, I don't quite understand, and no one has yet explained the process by which this occurs. I do have one paper that talks about how, why it attaches to alcohol, because your body converts alcohol into other toxins, and it identifies it as a toxin. It does, and it, by the way, it doesn't pull out anything else except the bad stuff. I call it intelligent. Pardon me?
It leaves the minerals.
Yeah, I call it intelligent food. First of all, because it knows what to do in your body. Second of all, you have to be intelligent to take it. But it attaches to these toxins. Again, I don't quite, and this will be a fantastic study when I can finally afford to do it, to understand the actual mechanism. And this is why when you're taking chlorella for detox, you need to take enough of it, because if you don't have enough, it's not enough to pull it out of your body. There's other ways you can get toxins out of your body, but you got to chelate them. You got to pull them through into your bloodstream. And then you eliminate them through urine or bowel movements or sweating, breathing, but you've got to get them out. And if you took chlorella just for its wellness benefits, same with spirulina, you could take 5 or 10 a day, but for detox, you need 20 or 30 tablets, or it will not be enough to hold on to.
Which is what we've always said, 5 grams or more from a detox. A cleanup crew is less than 3 grams.
Yeah. Think about it. If you go to the grocery store and you get 1 bag of groceries, you can easily carry that 1 bag of groceries to your car. But if you overdo it and you get 5 bags of groceries, you're going to end up dropping something. And so if you don't have enough chlorella to hold on to the toxins, it drops the toxins, and then it sucks back into your cell, and you're back to where you started. So you need enough to make sure it pulls all the way out. But here's the good thing about chlorella. It does way more than just pull out toxins. As I mentioned, it's rich with chlorophyll, which is very cleansing and healing to your blood and healing to your cell walls. It's got that RNA and DNA, which helps restore your RNA and DNA to a healthier fashion. It's got something, they didn't know what else to call it. They call it chlorella growth factor. It speeds up the growth of your own cells. And so now if you're, healthy cells, it will not speed up cancerous cells. So you've got the RNA to DNA to help you have healthy cells, and they'll grow faster. When you it stimulates peristalsis, which is also known as bowel movements, because you have to get rid of garbage in your gut anyways, and Chlorella will help do that. If you know anybody who's constipated, Chlorella is one of the best ways to help with constipation. That and magnesium. Those are the two things I generally recommend. And so because it's such a cleanup algae, and because your body goes through a detox repair cycle when you're sleeping, we generally recommend you take Chlorella before bed. You can take it any time of day with spirulina and with meals instead of meals. I eat them all day long. I eat mine with pistachio nuts or macadamia nuts. They're delicious. But if you don't like the flavor, I would at least try it with nuts, because if you can enjoy eating them, now you're having a bedtime snack that's very healing. But even still, if you don't like the flavors, still just swallow them, because when you sleep, that's when your body is getting rid of all the stuff it doesn't need, helping bring back what it does. And
your lymph is the most active, mobilizing all your toxins, and
yes,
probably will sit in there and grab it like your garbage router and move it out. But
exactly.
You said you could eat this with food, and there's been so much controversy in our world, which I've never agreed with. You can't eat Chlorella with food because it's so intelligent, and because it's made from the sun. Anybody hear about that sun and how smart it is? So you eat this with your food? Like, would you?
Yeah, I eat it all the time. We're going to make a trail mix, actually, hopefully next year, with Chlorella and pistachio nuts. And we're going to make another one with macadamia nuts. The macadamia ones I'm going to call Mac and Bits.
Oh, that's cute. That's very cute. And those are my two favorite nuts on the planet right now.
Yeah. Well, actually, they're the two best for you because they're also the lowest in lectins. Which can cause damage to your stomach. I used to eat a lot of almonds, and then I had stomach issues, and I found out it was probably the oxalates and the lectins in the almonds. But anyways, and the pistachio nuts, I'm going to call them Stash and Bits.
Oh, you're funny. You are funny. I love you, Catherine. You're hysterical.
I'll do anything to get this stuff into people. That's why I design, as I told you earlier, I design all the packaging, because I want it really welcoming. And I'm going to just slip back to spirulina for a second, because I forgot to mention we have two brands of spirulina, ENERGYbits, which I already mentioned. The other one's BeautyBits, because what happened was, I started the company because of my sister, and I noticed that women weren't buying the spirulina. So I asked my girlfriends, why do you think that is? And they said, it's blue, and women like things that are pink. So you gotta make it pink, the packaging pink, and give it a cute name. Well, because spirulina has so much protein, in fact, has more collagen than collagen powder, because it has antioxidants, it does help your skin and hair. I have no makeup on, absolutely zero. And my skin is flawless, and I attribute it to the spirulina and the Chlorella. By the way, anybody who's taking collagen, up level to spirulina, it has more collagen than collagen powder. And I don't know if people know, but collagen powder is made from chemically melted bones, ligaments, and tendons from animals. And there is nothing healthy about using chemicals in those sorts of things. And it's also not sustainable. It's terrible for the environment. So algae gives you everything that you need that's in collagen, plus more. It gives you chlorophyll, and it's sustainable. So
I want to keep talking, but I'm also got to say I'm a little craving some spirulina.
Yeah, me too.
Right now. Really bummed that I don't have any more right now.
We'll look after you. We'll get some out to you tomorrow. So basically, spirulina, energizing, nourishing, replaces multivitamins, fish oil, safe for your kids, for your pets, for your grandparents. Take it in the morning, afternoon, anytime you're tired, sleepy, hungry. It's ketogenic, great for intermittent fasting. Gluten-free, toxin-free, chemical-free, caffeine-free, sugar-free, one ingredient. And then Chlorella, which is a wellness algae, helps you recover your health, recover from sports. We take it at night, before you go to bed, and it will build your immune system, pull out toxins, help repair any issues with good rich RNA and DNA, cleanse your blood, heal your cells.
Help your bones.
Yeah, it helps with your bones. It helps with prevent heart disease. I mean, it's truly a wellness algae. So the two of them work cooperatively, but they do things quite differently. And so in fact, because
have one that mixes, right? That's got both in it.
yes, so we actually, if you can, we recommend you buy them separately just so you have more control over it. But if you just want simplicity, we do have a brand called ENERGYbits, which is a blend of the two algae. So it's half spirulina, half chlorella. That's what it looks like. And so it's a blended tablet. So it's, you know, everybody I know has like 20 supplements, and you can get rid of almost all of them when you take algae. And by the way, it never, as I said, it never goes bad. It just clears things up, and you'll never have to eat vegetables again if you don't want to, and it replaces them. So it's, you know, when you go to our website, the biggest, most popular item is our bag of 1,000 tablets. Now, I don't want people to have sticker shock. It's $125, but what I wanted to show you is I use this quote from NASA that says 1 gram of algae has the same nutrition as 1,000 grams of fruits, vegetables. And I did the math, because this is about half a pound, and figured that one bag of our 1,000 tablet algae tablets has the same nutrition as 551 pounds of vegetables. That's at $3. Yeah, at $3 a pound, it's about $1,500. So it's efficient nutrition. I mean, it's not only 551 pounds worth of nutrition, but it's 551 pounds of vegetables you don't have to carry home, clean, cook, or eat, or argue with your kids. So it's good value for, it saves you time and it saves you money. And even better, we have a 20% discount code for you to use. The word is True Wellness. And it works on everything all the time. We also have a sample pack if you aren't ready for the big bags. True Wellness, no space between true and wellness, just all one word. And type it into the coupon box, and whenever you're, and you know, it works every time you come to the site. Oh, the website is ENERGYbits.com. I guess I better tell you that.
I think my team's going to have it on our shop as well. Yeah. And then that would link back to her website essentially. And I don't, the back end of all that stuff, I don't know how to work.
Yeah, I don't know either.
True Wellness is the code, and you'll get 20% off, which is a huge gift. And thank you so much, Catherine.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, you're welcome.
A lot of our client base uses Chlorella, and we use Spirulina, and this is a new brand for us. And I'm very excited about the brand, and I'm very excited about what you're offering our client base of 20%, because a lot of our clients are, you know, this is their last stop from a perspective. They've been everywhere, try everything else, and now they're here to really get well. And they've spent a lot of money, a lot of energy doing other things. And so everybody appreciates that 20%. Right. I really appreciate it. That's a huge gift, 20%. And forever, not just on your first order, but indefinitely keep ordering it, and you'll get 20% for your vitality, for your energy, for your immunity, for your bones, for, I mean, we don't have time to go into it because it's been plenty, and I appreciate so much. And one of my goals is to help change the world with healthcare and education. And there are so many people starving. I had no idea that this has never taken hold for some reason, but could really help feed the hunger. So
I think it's because you just need momentum of more people understanding something. And I remind people, you know, algae isn't new, it's just new to you. And just like a lot of other indigenous foods that have been used for centuries, you know, chia, kiwa, you know, I drink yerba mate every morning, and it's been used for 300 years in Argentina, but somebody had to bring it into America and explain to people what it was. CBD, even collagen, up until 7 years ago, Vital Proteins is the company that really put collagen on the map. Unfortunately, collagen is actually not good for you, but they grew the awareness of it. And algae just needed somebody to be their spokesperson in America, because it's already huge in Asia. Just it's never been explained properly. And so that's why I'm just trying to, for these canisters, we just put these on our website last week, but this makes it real easy. See that little hole?
Oh yeah.
You can just, you know, it's great.
I love that, because one of your zippies, I picked it up out of the bottom of my purse. Let's just say that. I still ate them. I didn't care, but I was like, oh man, I didn't zip it all the way. So that's awesome.
Yeah. So it's great for your canister, your kids, if you're at, you know, for you at your practice, you can just sample, sort of shake it. It's safe. I designed it even before COVID, but it took a long time to get production, and they're finally, we put them on the website just last week.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
But algae's starting to get recognized around the world. If you haven't seen the Netflix movie, Seaspiracy, Seaspiracy. It talks about how the commercial fishing industry is destroying the oceans. And even in the movie, twice, they say the answer to saving the oceans is to eat algae. Algae's starting to show up everywhere. Gore-Tex, the clothing company, made an entire clothing line 2 years ago out of algae because it's the most sustainable crop in the world. Reebok made a plant-based shoe, and the liner, all made of plants. The liner's completely algae because it kills bacteria. Companies are making plastic bottles out of algae, and you can eat your water bottle after you drink your water, or if you don't eat your water bottle, the bottle will decompose in 24 days. I mean, algae is crazy it's going to change the world. And so that's why I'm pretty excited about it, because I just need people to understand it. Algae love. We're just trying to spread some algae love here.
Awesome. I love algae love. Well, Catherine, you have been an incredible, extremely excited wealth of information. And I have a feeling we only have, you said 1 million cells are on the tip of a pin of a head. I mean,
head of a pin.
Head of a pin.
Yeah.
And I feel as though that's about the amount of information we got from you, was one of those cells out of 1 million of that head of the pin. But I completely appreciate, as I'm sure the community does. And if you liked this today, please share this with your friends, hit the notification button, hit us a little comment. We would love it. And before we leave, though, I'm going to ask you one question. And I have a feeling I know what the answer, but perhaps not. You have found, well, as you said, your passion found you, obviously. Yeah. And your sister's story is a beautiful story, and God bless her for having you and your sisters in her life. The love of algae and the love of her sisters has helped her heal from the inside out, no doubt. Through all your years of success and ups and downs, I'm sure, as we all have, what is the secret? If you had a microphone and go, here's 7.6 billion people, I get to talk to all you right now and you have to listen. What is the secret you want to give out to the world?
That your happiness comes from inside. It's the serenity that's inside. And if you have trouble tapping into that, go outside, because Mother Nature is your best mentor. She will show you if you just pay attention. That's it. So, but it has to come from inside. I didn't know what the truth is, I had no idea what I was doing, but there was something inside me that just said, you've got to keep going. Just, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't, I don't have the background, nothing, but I couldn't stop. So, and I have never been so happy and so at peace, because every day I'm helping somebody, and it just makes me feel whole. It really makes me feel like I'm part of the world now. I wasn't before. I was in it, but I wasn't a part of it. You know the great analogy? I felt like that chlorophyll. I wasn't blending with the world. I wanted to blend, still be myself, but blend with the world. And that's when you have your serenity and you have your peace, you also still have your individuality, but you're sharing your gift. And that's where the serenity comes from. Be yourself, but share it.
And I could go on an hour-long rant about that, and that was beautiful. And let me just say that, don't forget that Chlorella is light energy. Yes. And so it creates structured water in the body.
Yes.
And when you have complete alignment in your body with every cell, you are completely unified with source energy. And therefore we all are individuals connected to the rest of the world. And correct. Thank you for your beautiful work, your beautiful passion and packaging.
Yes.
And for your time today. And thank you all for your time today and listening to the Beats today with Kelly Kennedy from the True Wellness Center. And we will see you next time. Have a great, wonderful day. And if you can't find what's going on and you don't feel good on the inside, then as Catherine said, get outside into Mother Nature and you got this. Have a great day, everybody.